Okay, so Sony just announced the February PS Plus games, and I'm gonna be honest with you, my first reaction was that's it. But then I actually looked into it and realized something way more interesting is happening here. Sony is basically running an experiment to see how little they can give you before you finally cancel, and the crazy part? It's working. Let me show you what I mean. So we're getting 4 games: Undisputed, Subnautica Below Zero, Ace Combat 7, and Ultros. Now everyone's gonna lead with Undisputed because it's a boxing game and we haven't had one of those since 2011? Fight Night Champion? So automatically people are like, oh sick, boxing is back. Except here's the thing, and I say this with love to the developers, Undisputed is kinda mid. Like, it got a 6 out of 10 from IGN. Steam reviews are sitting at 2.6 stars. This isn't some hidden gem that deserves your attention. It's a game that Sony can put on the front of the announcement because it sounds impressive, even though the actual quality is questionable, and that's intentional. That's the whole strategy. Keep that in the back of your head, but you know what's actually crazy? Nobody is talking about Subnautica Below Zero. This game got a 9 out of 10 from IGN. PC Gamer loved it. Game Informer called it one of the best survival games they've played. Like, this is legitimately a great game that normally sells for $30 and barely ever goes on sale, but it's buried in the announcement. Why? Because underwater survival horror doesn't sound as sexy as boxing is back, baby. This is what I'm talking about. Sony knows most people just read headlines, so they put the recognizable thing first, even if it's worse, and hide the actual value in the fine print. It's the same reason McDonald's puts the Big Mac on billboards instead of their salads. One sells, one doesn't, even if the quality is backwards. And before you say, but that's just marketing. Yeah, it is. That's exactly my point. We're being marketed to, and most people don't realize it. Okay, back to Undisputed for a second because this bothers me. This game came out in October 2024. It launched at $40 by Black Friday 2025, literally 2 months ago. It was on sale for like $20, sometimes less. So Sony waited until the game was already marked down, already had mixed reviews, already lost its hype, and then put it on PS Plus. You see what that means, right? They're not giving you new exciting games. They're giving you games that already failed to sell at full price. Games that publishers are willing to basically give away because they've already made most of the money they are gonna make. And look, I'm not saying that's evil, that's business. But let's call it what it is. You're getting the leftovers. The first boxing game in a decade angle is just marketing spin to make you feel like you are getting something special when really you're getting a game most people already passed on. Now compare that to Subnautica, which is actually still selling well, still has a dedicated player base, and probably cost Sony way more to license. For PS Plus, that's your real value this month. Here's where it gets really interesting, and this is what nobody else is covering. January 2026. That lineup got destroyed in the comments. People were pissed. Why? Because Need for Speed Unbound had already been on PS Plus Extra in 2024, so anyone who had been subscribed to the higher tier already had access to it. It felt like Sony was just recycling content and hoping nobody would notice. February seems better on the surface because at least these games are new to the service, but here's what I want you to understand. Sony just raised PS Plus prices by 35% in 2023. Essential went from $60 to $80 a year. Extra and Premium went up even more, and their CEO literally said in a shareholder meeting, I'm paraphrasing but barely, we're gonna keep raising prices as long as people keep paying. So they're making more money from subscriptions than ever before, but the game quality isn't getting better. If anything, it's getting worse. You know what that tells me? They figured out the magic formula. Keep it just good enough that people don't cancel, but cheap enough that Sony's profit margins stay huge. It's the Netflix playbook: raise prices, lower content spent, bet on people being too lazy to cancel, and it works because most people don't do the math. Speaking of math, let's actually break this down because I am tired of people just accepting whatever subscription services tell them. Yes, Plus Essential is $80 a year. That's $6.67 a month you're getting for games in February. Let's be generous and say each game is worth $25 on average. That's $100 worth of games for your $6.67. Sounds amazing, right? Except, and be honest with yourself, how many of these games are you actually gonna play? I found a stat, and this is from Sony's own data, that the average PS Plus subscriber plays fewer than 2 of the monthly games per year. Read that again. You're getting 36 to 48 games a year and playing maybe 2 of them. That's why Sony can get away with months like this, because even if only one game is good, in this case Subnautica, that's already more than most people will use. You're not paying for 48 games a year. You're paying $80 to occasionally find one game you actually want to play. The rest is just noise. Quick side note because people always bring this up, but what about Game Pass? Here's the deal. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is now $30 a month. That's $360 a year, more than double what you'd pay for PS Plus Premium. But you get day one releases, Starfield, Fable, all the big Xbox exclusives drop on Game Pass the day they launch, PS Plus. You're waiting 1 to 2 years for Sony's big games to show up on Extra or Premium. God of War Ragnarok came out in 2022 and it still hasn't hit PS Plus Extra as of February 2026, so these aren't even competing anymore. Game Pass is for people who need the latest games immediately and don't care about cost. PS Plus is for patient gamers who want back catalog access on a budget. Neither is better, they're serving completely different audiences, but Sony wants you to think they're competing so you feel like you're getting a deal. You're not, you're getting a different product entirely. Alright, real talk, should you be excited about February 2026? If you've never played Subnautica Below Zero, yes, claim it immediately. That game alone is worth more than a month of PS Plus. If you're a boxing fan and you've been starving for content, maybe try Undisputed. Just go in with low expectations. It's not Fight Night, it's not even close. Ace Combat 7 is from 2019, if you wanted to play it. You probably already did. Ultros is a weird indie that most people will download, play for 20 minutes and never touch again. Here's my actual recommendation. If you're only sub to Essential for online play, keep it, you're locked in anyway, and Subnautica makes this month worth it. If you're paying for Extra or Premium, ask yourself if you're actually using the game catalog. Because Sony just confirmed they're removing more games than they're adding. That's not growth, that's contraction. If you're thinking about subscribing just for February, don't wait for a sale. These games will be available until March 2nd, and most of them have been cheaper than the cost of a monthly subscription. Here's what I think is really happening. Sony is slowly turning PS Plus from Netflix for games into you need this to play online, and the monthly games are just a bonus to make you feel better about it. The evidence. PS4 games are being phased out, fewer games being added to Extra and Premium, more safe picks for monthly games, older titles, already discounted stuff, Premium tier getting almost nothing. They added one PS1 game in January. Meanwhile, subscription revenue is up. 38% of PS Plus users are now on Extra or Premium. People are paying more for less, and Sony knows it. They're betting on subscription inertia, the idea that once you're paying yearly, you won't cancel even when the value drops, and they're right, most of us won't cancel, we'll complain in the comments. We'll make jokes about it, but we'll keep paying. So yeah, PS Plus February 2026 is fine. Subnautica's great, Undisputed is questionable, Ace Combat is old, Ultros is niche, but the real story is that Sony is testing how little they can give you before you actually cancel, and so far, we're still here. Claim Subnautica, skip the rest unless you're really bored, and maybe start asking yourself, am I actually getting 80 to 160 of value a year from this? Because Sony's banking on you not doing that math, don't let them win. Alright, that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll catch you in the next one.